Welcome to Chop Talk. This is Kyle.
I'm Spencer.
And today, Spencer, what are we talking about, man?
We are talking about the Nagamaki.
Yes. Yeah, this is a really good one. I often mix it up with the Nodachi. That's like a personal mistake I make a lot.
It's pretty hard to not like. I mean, they're very, very close and very similar. And actually, as you can see in our space of our honored guest we have today, you put that up on your Instagram, and you got a pretty good little plugging, didn't you?
Yeah, we had our Marquette thing, which was this awesome grant we're doing for Marquette, as you know. We'll talk about that later on. I don't want to, you know, take too much time away from the Nagamaki. But yeah, I put that up. Lots of people respond like, "What's this? What are you doing? What sword is this?" And I told people Nodachi, and you corrected me. You're like, "Actually, Kyle, there's some slight differences." So tell me those slight differences, bro.
And it was actually a good friend of mine, Ryokujin, who was saying, "I think that one's a Nagamaki." I'm like, "Are you sure, bud?" And then he sent me a whole. We had this whole back and forth of looking at what's the difference between a Nodachi and a Nagamaki. So, Jason, if you pull up, I think it's number one, or oh, no, sorry, no, actually number two, the Naginata. Shows a little picture of it's an art of Naginata there. So that's the one that we had on Marquette. And then, so when you look at the art style of this one, Japanese art, the Naginata is the pole arm, right?
That's right. That's right.
So as you can see, this is long. The blade's only towards the end. It's a ranged weapon. It's really good, but it's
So
different
it's
still.
yeah, like on this one, you'd say that it's like 75% is just the staff, and the
Yeah,
other
just the staff.
25% is the sword.
Exactly. And now if you look, Kyle, bring up number three, the Nodachi. And the difference is, as we know with fighting, the range, the more range you have, the better. So now this one you have a Nodachi, which this picture actually comes from an awesome game called L5R, Legend of the Five Rings.
Big fan
Uh,
of L5R.
it's amazing. I knew you would be. It's called the Honed Nodachi. As you can see in this one, the blade is what would we say, about at least 70, if not maybe a little bit more percent of the whole length.
Right, right. So it's just a really, really big katana.
Yep, just a really, really big katana. And then just in case you didn't get the two generations, like we have a lot of people that have different kind of nerd culture here. So if you pull up number three, Jason, there's another picture. I just want to make sure everyone. No, it's number three, Piccolo Naginata. Yeah, so this is one just to make sure, some people don't see the differences. I found this up there where it had all the Dragon Ball Z characters, which is a little bit into nerd news. That's another version of a Naginata, which I think is pretty cool. And then last we pick up four with Broly and Nodachi. We'll do up all the whole, be like, okay, now I get it. Because before people would be like, I don't quite get it. But then when you throw a little anime in the mix, they're like, I do.
Yeah, I like the art choices here where we're like, we could show like all the different stuff. We're like, but what about Dragon Ball Z?
Exactly. And when I saw this the first time, I'm like, this is what I'm totally using this for our show. This one you have Broly, and he has a long Nodachi. So obviously the difference is there. The it's still blade length wise. Now, if you go back to Kyle's Instagram post, Kyle Insta Nodachi, which this is a long view of it, you can see that the handle is really about like a third. And notice difference from the projection that we're looking at it, and I don't have this weapon with me right now because it's still in Wisconsin, because I'll be going back next week to see them do
That's
all
right.
their other things. But there's a lot of different movements that you can do with the Nagamaki opposed to the Nodachi. You have all this handle that you can choke up on and use short chops as well. It's just really, how do you think you would use it opposed to you mess with the Nodachi now?
Yeah, so I mean, I've played with Nodachis, and I played a lot with Naginata, which is assuming a much longer handle.
Mhm.
The big difference here is that huge cutting blade because it's
Mhm.
not responsive. Like when we play with the katana, where we're fast. This one
Mhm.
cuts with authority. Like they say that it would be used to cut horses and cavalry. And I'm like, that's silly talk. Just like the katana can cut a tank in half. But after we did Jason confirms that it can cut a tank in half in the background. So if that's incorrect, yeah, we'll. But yeah, the thing is, to me, once you start chopping with it, it's serious. It cuts through everything that you put in front of it. So
Mhm. Yeah, and we tried to
yeah.
use it. I couldn't find the footage of it, but there's one time we were using bamboo, and I was trying to cut it with the
Mhm.
Nagamaki,
Mhm.
and I'm so used to the leverage and the movement of with the Nodachi or katana, it kind of would go half through, and then I wouldn't have the power to completely cleave through the bamboo. So that was really interesting in itself. Um, so yeah, the differences of a Nagamaki and a Nodachi. So Jason, you can go back to the regular picture. Thanks for showing that one. I appreciate it. Now, the really interesting thing that I find is if it was a Nodachi versus a Nagamaki, I wonder who would win, or I wonder what advantages they'd have.
Yep, that's a great question because it's not always like what tool would win. It's usually like what what would the wielders look for who are holding each of the tools in question, or physics objects if you're on a university.
Yes, yes. Which I should have put that picture in there when we first got to the university, which we're just teasing you on. We'll give you more information on it soon. The first sign we saw was says no weapons beyond this point, and we're like, well, good
That's
thing
kind of
these
what
are
we're
physics
here to
tools.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, with the Nodachi or with the Nagamaki, I mean, I would really be looking for those big cuts if I was using that tool. They're very hard to block. There's a lot of power behind them. That's basically your best bet is to get a blow that's just unblockable uh, without forcing them to take some damage. That's
Yeah.
what I'd look for. What about you? What would you look for?
Oh man, I think when using the Nagamaki, I would really try to keep my range a middle to still close range on there, so I could still cleave and get the full chops, and I'd be using the
Mm,
first,
mm.
the closest towards me. Now, because in range, if they have the Nodachi, they're gonna get me in the better swings and then the
Yeah,
arc.
yeah.
I want nothing to deal with that.
That's a great
So yeah.
point. Yeah, that distance, you want to be up close. Plus, you're right. You can completely torque it with the wide grip for those close
hmm
cuts. Yeah,
hmm
man.
No, I'm actually really curious to figure that out now. Like it's something I have to make some kind of foam ones and mess around or even find some steel. Just curious.
Yeah. Now, do they allow those in steel fighting? Like, if you were to make like a samurai kit, is that allowed, or is that kind of not done yet?
No, it is allowed. So it depends though what you fight. Like if you're an ACS, the Armored Sports Combat, they definitely allow anything as long as it's safe. If you're more the
Mhm.
HMB levels, they might be a little bit more. Everything would have to be 100% accurate, which would be fine. There's a guy that has a samurai kit. I don't know his name. I'll have to find clips of it later. Who has a samurai kit, uses a samurai sword, and the weird thing is how the samurai katana is made or his nodachi is made. It doesn't have the same oomph as some of the other great swords, but that's just more how it's made. Someone could make one that's
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
So
That's
actually, I'm not gonna
interesting.
lie, I want a kit like that. It'd be really fun to just do it, but I don't. I mean, you
I
see this kid behind this side and on the samurai one over there. I don't have so many kits I can
Yeah,
use.
I'm 100% surprised you said that. I would have never guessed.
Never guessed someone simply samurai or anything samurai culture. But no, they actually have some. It's interesting. No, it's allowed. I just haven't got around to doing it myself. But I haven't fought the
That's
person
cool,
yet either,
man.
so I'll have to find them.
Now, let me ask you this question. So,
Sure.
like, the katana is supposed to be like kind of a sidearm, like it wasn't necessarily your main weapon if you were a samurai and you went out there and used it, you might use a bow or your spear. What about like a Nagamaki? If you had one of those, is that your primary weapon?
I would still consider it to be like the sidearm, like if I had a naginata. So I still have, your katana, my wakizashi or tanto, part of your daiso set. But then when
Yep,
I'm on
yep.
horseback, I would probably be using more of the yari spear, either that or either the sorry, naginata, so I can reach out more while I'm from horseback. Uh, I think it'd be kind of an either or type thing,
Hmm. Hmm.
but
Yeah,
it's
that's
only personal
interesting.
preference.
Yeah,
And I
I
know
always
you're
like to
testing me a
see
little
that.
bit where I'm like, also number one, I'll be using arrows, more arrows. But yeah.
No, I'm not trying to trick you at all. But arrows are always overlooked when we talk about Japanese swords. Like they're really cool and really well done, but man,
Mhm.
arrows were king. You had to know how to shoot a bow if you wanted to be a
Yeah.
samurai.
Yeah, and if you didn't know how to use your Yumi, you were gonna get shot by a whole bunch of people. Which you saw the cool balloons on their back, which were filled fabric. So when they rode, they'd fill up with air, so you wouldn't get shot in the back by arrows. Really cool.
Dude, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. I had no idea.
Yeah, let's show it sometime. More stuff.
Yeah, that sounds actually pretty awesome. I got a science experiment for us to run.
We can do it on dummy. Actually, that'd be pretty cool. I'm not sure if it's been done. Either way, I don't care if it's done. We'll do it.
Yeah,
Cool.
it hasn't been done by us.
Exactly. Well, I think that's pretty much for our honored guest, the Nagamaki. Do you have any other questions, Kyle?
No, man. Thanks for answering my questions. That's a weapon that I don't know a whole lot about.
You're welcome, and thank you, Nagamaki, for being a part of the show.
Yep, Nagamaki, honored guest.
What we have next, I think, is it time for a little bit of sword nerd news?
That's right, it is.
Excellent. What do we have for today? Let me see.
Today, The Witcher
Excellent. Oh.
comes out December 17th on Netflix, season 2. I'm super excited about it. Have you watched the first season yet?
I have.
Okay.
Actually, as you know, you're way about to your Witcher lore, but you're like, you need to watch this and need to start reading some of the books. So,
Yeah, man. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, the first season, as you know, it was done like kind of out of order, and that was part of the fun of watching it was the non-sequential storytelling, which led to like cool reveals at the end. I really am curious if they're going to take that same path on the second season or go their own way and tell like a normal linear tale. It could be either way. Yeah, but I'm pumped about this, Spencer.
Now, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. This one's gonna go more of the story from like the video game from The Witcher 3, right? We're getting that new person in supposedly, or I'm not sure.
Well, kind of. I think that these are going to be closer to the books.
Okay.
They are so in Witcher 3 is when they have Ciri has some training scenes in it, and I think that might be where this goes. But from what I've noticed in the trailer, and a lot of people don't know this about The Witcher, is they take a lot of Polish folklore and folk tales, and that's kind of their basis for their monsters and their storylines. But they also twist them. And if you know Disney stories, you know them. Like it looks like they're doing the Beauty and the Beast one. Which was one of my favorite ones, their own take on it, which was that the beast was this wild party animal, and the new Belle came every few years until she got bored of it and left. And that's kind of the darker take on that story, and it looks like that's what they're doing.
That's awesome. Now, another thing for you to answer, oh, Mighty Witcher.
No, I'm ready.
That sword that's in Geralt's right hand, would that be, what classification sword would you say that is?
Okay, so Witchers have two swords, one steel and one silver. If it's a silver sword, that's a super cool fantasy sword made for killing monsters, and silver obviously is kind of too malleable to make a good blade, so no one's ever done it in real life. But the inspiration there is they really like Oakshot Type 16s, and basically later Oakshot time frame. So we're talking like very end of the 1300s, 1400s, where swords started becoming two-handed and then started becoming more narrow at the point to get through like all that armor.
I see.
As you know, as a dude that's hit a lot of people in, Battle of the Nations, Bowhurt, all those various sports, hitting with a sword isn't as effective as you'd hope it would be. And so that basically was the answer to that. It's like, we'll start making swords that have a more refined point, sharper point, and not worry so much about the blade mass or all the way down, which would be like some of the earlier swords, like a Viking sword or an Oakshot Type 12.
Sure, that makes sense. No, that'd be pretty deadly.
Yeah, and I think they just choose it in The Witcher because it looks cool. They don't care what it's for. They're just like, that's a cool sword. Geralt could rock that one.
Okay. Last question, because otherwise we go on for sword news all day.
Right. We're like this every week.
Exactly. So armor-wise, from season 1, his armor, and season 2, which one do you like better?
I like it when he wore no armor in season 1. The armor's my biggest gripe with the whole show. When he just wore the shirt, I'm like, looks good, man. He's got a cool fantasy medieval costume. But like the Nilfgaard armor was so bad, and the games did such a good job of having historical 15th century armor. They look like Landsknechts, they look like Germans, especially
cool.
like Nilfgaard. And then in the show, it didn't look right. But his new armor, it looks like more of like the typical Hollywood like studded leather, which doesn't have a historical basis, but it does look cool. So when you're making a film, you want it to look cool. So it's it's that balance.
Gotcha. And season 2, it looks like they made the fake abs one, but it's not fake abs as you would think. They took like the studded parts and they made it in like little. I don't know. You'll have to see it, viewers. Just if anything, if you don't care about the show, just watch it till you see him in his armor the first time, and you'll just be like, "Boo." Boo.
Yeah. They're trying to look cool for Geralt, and I get it, but I have no idea what they're doing for the Nilfgaard armor. Look at that stuff; it looks like a plastic bag armor. I don't know, but they seem to be fixing it for season 2 in the clips of Nilfgaard I saw. So
we'll see.
We'll
see. Well, that's enough for Sword Nerd News today. Next, we're going to move on to our World of Swords. Kyle, what do we have first?
All right. So in the World of Swords, you went to a pretty big thing recently. You went to Reno, and what was the name of the event you went to?
So it was Legion Sports Fest. If you actually, Jason, pull up the Legion Sports Fest little PNG, it's like 3 ones over, has like the Superman pose. So it's basically like an Arnold Classic. Like I didn't know as big as what it would be. I was like, I'm just going here. I mean, as a lot of people know, I just ask what the questions are after I ask questions there. They had powerlifting, they had weightlifting, they had arm wrestling, they had physique contests where people look like they eat chicken every 24/7. But we were just the main event in the back. We were one of the big things. We were armored combat. And now, Jason, actually, if you pull up that video that you're going to click on the first one, that'd be perfect. It was just such a great environment. There were 5 teams completely, people from all over the nation.
Smash!
This one I played.
Love it.
So we would have the audio for this one, but this video I actually put up on our Instagram, and then I gave it to a sports person that does things called haymakers, and this actually has 750,000 views.
Oh man!
Yeah, and it's my friend Austin who's punching this guy from Ursus, and everyone's like, "Why is he punching?" I'm like, well, because his axe was held at point, so he just wanted to punch. You don't get points in this one for punching, but it makes someone tired. I'm just telling you, getting punched multiple times, you get tired.
Dude, no one wants to get punched in the head, helmet or no. You just don't like it.
No.
Dude, I love this because last Chop Talk, we were talking about what we were doing, and I was talking about boxing. And I was like, I'm just doing boxing. I'm not doing a lot of sword stuff. And you're like, no, it all ties together. And then it feels like within 4 days, you post this of like this guy getting in, punching like 5 in a row. And I'm like, yeah, man, Spencer's right. It all does tie together.
Totally works. And then if you pull up my picture with me and Kumbi, so I fought in a longsword one was the main one because I want to be longsword champion of the world.
Right. How did you do, by the way? How did you do?
I got third. I did really good.
Third.
I won my first one. Oh, that's too late. Okay. Actually, just put the tank one. We had a picture later of me and him just cheesing, smiling. But I got. Oh yeah, he found it. He's gonna put it up in a sec. But yeah, so then I came against
this guy.
He's actually Captain Kumbi. He's in the army. He's an awesome guy. He actually made it 4th in Worlds a couple of years ago. So he's a top level combatant. It was a really good fight. And then I went up 3rd because after that I was like, okay. There should be a podium picture too, or has a picture.
So was he the only one that beat you that day?
Yes.
Oh man. All right.
I know. You're such a good one.
You're working it. I love it, man. You you keep training it. You're working it.
Gotcha. It was really fun. We went to like the first round, he beat me by a few points. Second round, we tied. Third round, they thought it tied again, but then they looked back at the footage and he beat me. But there we are. He just stayed on the podium. He's a really strong guy. I don't care how short. He's not that short. He's not short at all. Like it's the podium. And last but not least, put up a tank. I mean, like I said, you said he fought like a tank, right? Like he actually drives tanks. So
yes, perfect. This guy is a tank.
I found this picture on his Facebook because I was like, I gotta find out more about this guy, and I made this meme. It looks like straight up out of Warhammer 40K.
Oh, totally. That's him in his tank.
That's him in his tank, in his armor. It's not
This guy kicks
superimposed.
ass.
He took the armor there. He was like, I want to take pictures in this tank. So I was like, if I have to lose to anybody, that's pretty cool. I'm not gonna
You
lie. I mean,
know,
next time I'm gonna beat him. I told him, telling you, Cumby, I'm coming for you. But
my hypothesis here, Spencer, you weren't able to beat him because katanas can't cut through tanks. We debunked that in a previous Chop Talk.
it's true.
Next time, no katanas against the tank.
No
Use,
katanas with
I mean,
the tank.
what is normal
I was
anti-tank
using a
weaponry here?
katana. Maybe I should use a katana next time. We don't know. Another tank.
All right,
But
we'll
yeah.
get you a 40K tank, Spencer. Put you on that one.
Yes. But Arena was great. Can't wait to go next year. It's going to be even bigger and better. It was a great time. Made a lot of good contacts, which I'll wait till we have our sponsors where we talk about that later. There's a
All
great
right, sounds
little
good.
short story with there. But what else did you have? You had somebody, you have a friend that's doing a YouTube channel?
That's right. So a friend of mine named Adam Rector started his own YouTube channel like this week. This is him. If you are interested in martial artists, check him out. Give him a follow and all that. But Adam, he went to IU. He does fight choreography. He was a teacher. He gave me private lessons when I very first started expanding out of the sword world. I was doing nothing but armored combat at the time, and I'm like, I want to learn like a little bit of other martial arts out there. And Adam was actually my teacher, and he gave me a bunch of good stuff that I helped me go my own way. And then, funny enough, our good friend Damon Stith of the Hammer organization, he just met with Adam this last weekend. They just put up videos together of training together. So I was like, oh, small world.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, the sword world is too small. That's why you
It
don't be a
is.
jerk. I mean, you shouldn't be a jerk anyway, but if you are a jerk, people will find out real quick and
Yeah,
it will spread like
everybody
wildfire.
will know. Everybody will know.
Oh, cool. Rock on. Well, that's what we have for Sword or World of Swords. Last part, we have the TWSP roadmap. So these are things that we've been working on. So I think it's time to plug that Marquette stuff we've been doing.
Yep.
There should be a video of some kids doing some Marquette stuff. I don't know if you have that, Jason. He's looking around. But you can just show the picture. That's fine. Just show that picture, the far right one that you had. Oh, you got the video. Okay.
Yep, video's going.
All right.
So
we don't have to
what we did here, like we're making a video of this. We took some footage. We helped him out. Marquette University's physics department is putting together a grant and basically on swords and how they're cataloged in museums, and they wanted more info. And so they needed someone who had a lot of swords, a lot of sword knowledge, and like a ton of enthusiasm. So they called Spencer and were like, hey, please come over, bring every sword you can. And when we got there, that was when we saw that sign that said no, absolutely no weapons whatsoever inside the physics building.
And the coolest thing about it is, what in museums they have, obviously you can look at it. You can't pick it up. They say what the length is. They say what it's made out of. However, they do not talk about the center of mass. They do not talk about mass most of the time in general. So this experiment, they're trying to actually get more information that is crucial, that tells you about each and every sword that museums around the world do not have yet. So it sounds like we're just being like, we're a part of the breaking edge world stuff, but we really are. This is one of the first times they're trying to do this.
Yeah, if the paper that they're writing, the publication goes how they plan to get museum pieces, and they'll have us help test them. Because, I mean, you know this, Spencer, anytime you pick up a sword, one of the first things we do is we find that center of balance on it. Even if it's like a SCA rattan stick, like we still have to find a center of balance. And the closer it is to your hand, the more control you're going to have on it. Wider out, the less control, but at the same time, the more it might deliver some force.
Yep, there's a difference like with a shotel. We're like, oh, this is used this is how this one feels, or a shotel from another shotel, or a long sword from another long sword. It's really cool to figure out all the research they're doing, and the students were super excited, and they actually were like, hey, can I hold some of these swords? Can I? I'm like, don't swing them, but yes, you can. And they're like, can I get a picture of the swords? You sure can.
Yep.
It was just a good time. Good time.
Yeah, they were really enthusiastic. And everyone was so smart. Like we knew a lot about sword, but we definitely don't know as much as these guys about physics. That's for sure.
Oh, no. Jason, would you put up just the one that has the Marquette and the Wandering Sword put together? It was just really cool to see all this information, to see all this drive and want. We also got to cut pumpkins inside of a college campus. And as soon as we started doing that, they whipped out all their phones, and Kyle went first. And I was like, "All right, students, you're gonna see something really cool, or it's gonna be interesting." And Kyle's like, "Oh, thanks for making me semi-nervous."
Yeah, I wasn't even like thinking about that, and then you pointed that out, and I'm like, oh man, there's like 30 cameras on me, like right now they're like this.
It's pretty awesome though.
But I gotta say, I'm pretty proud of that cut. Your gold katana is a pretty good one, man.
That one's great. I love that katana. It could
Yeah.
probably cut through a tank. I didn't get to try it though. But
watch out, Cumby. He's bringing the gold katana.
I might. There's another picture with the trombosh where they're balancing it. If you could pull that up. That was so we brought my one African authentic Congolese weapon, which is really cool. And that's what was fun because we had the shotel, we had rapiers, we had sabers, we had a polearm, we had a bardiche, we had the kopesh. We had things that had all different kind of center balances. So they were really excited to see this. And that's the picture of the trombosh, which is known as an African throwing weapon, which I still am going to discredit. I don't think it's a throwing weapon because that thing would shatter. But it's really cool.
Well, and like, oh yeah, like I agree with your assessment. Like using it, like playing with it, that hook, that feels like a comma in Japanese martial arts. Like I would totally hook somebody with that any day of the week before I would throw it.
Yeah, and there's so not to go down in the woods. This is the last thing I'll say, and then we'll move on to the next. They have things that are way sturdier.
Tell me about the woods.
No. They have things that are way sturdier that kind of almost feel like a shaped piece of rebar. That there's one that throws. It doesn't look like it's super with throw, but it would stick. It would definitely stick in something, and it wouldn't break. And you pick it up. So they have things that were very useful and utilitarian. You'd use over and over and over again, and functional. Whereas I think this one is definitely a prestige piece. Where when people would say normally the shotels is just a prestige piece, which I'm also like, no. So there's so much research I need to get doing and write that book for the Wandering Sword. But that's all I have.
Yeah, that's all right, man. I won't ask you a billion questions on this. Maybe the trombosh will get its own episode in the future as an honored guest. Because that's a cool weapon.
Or even better, we might bring my friend Osa, who's the vice president of Hama, and he loves the trombosh. So
all right. I'm already ready for this person. I'm gonna bombard them with questions.
Outstanding. So that's pretty much tying everything in. If you would put our sponsors up there, so the Wandering Sword has been starting to get some sponsors and affiliates. Through when I was at Reno, I had the pleasure of meeting American Iron Gem, and they had their swords stolen, which was their best prizes they had. And I was like, whoa, I can get you guys 3 axes. At least they can take them. Like, really? You give us hand axes? I'm like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, gladly. They eventually found the thieves that stole the swords, so they got to give them out anyway, but they still really appreciated that we were willing to give them swords or give them axes. And they gave us a nice donation. It was really, really cool. Medieval Extreme now, because my Instagram's starting to blow up. I don't know why. Actually, it's because of that video. But if you ever want any kind of Bohurt supplies from Age of Craft or Medieval Extreme, put in code Samurai. You'll get different percentages off or different kind of things. And of course, our actual sponsor, American Bohurt, who is awesome, American made. They are right in Texas. Good friend of mine, Matt Aaron. He's one of the first sponsors we had. And he's like, hey, I really like what you're doing at Bohurt. I really like what you're doing at the Wandering Sword. You should also come out and visit me. Here's some stuff. And I can't really pay you much right now, but let's go make it happen. So thank you to our sponsors and affiliates.
Yep, super appreciative. And I've got to add this to the plug. With Medieval Extreme, using that code, if you're going to buy armor anyway, using that code helps the Wandering Sword Project. That money that we get helps us make videos, helps us go to more places, and helps us keep creating content. Or providing swords for universities if that's what they need.
It might happen. And Age of Craft, take a look at some of their armor. They actually have some armor that they specifically made for Kyle, and now they sell it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
My gear that I had them custom make is on their website now. It's just like one of the many different kinds they have.
That's pretty fun. Alrighty, man. I have got nothing else.
Yeah, this is a really busy couple weeks, and we've still got. You're going to be wrapping up Marquette later this week, so. Yeah, we'll have another Chop Talk, and we'll wrap up kind of our Marquette stuff. So, yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. This has been Chop Talk. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Find our Patreon. And remember to wander on and Cut.
Check us out on Patreon. You can even sign up to get our Season 1 exclusive t-shirt. We are grateful for your contributions, and every bit helps us bring you more content. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff, but most importantly, wander on.